Give everybody a minute to get in here. I dump that coffee on myself. A little bit of America's best. What's going on, Tyke? And a little bit of the South's best. Keep the skeeters off my feet. Good Lord. Feel them already tearing me up. All right. We're going to start this recording. It's good to be back outside again. I contemplated sitting inside just because, you know, it's July 7th, so 249 years, and July 6th, 249 years, and 2 days ago we gained our independence from England, but it sounds like we're still at war. Occasionally, it's not as bad today as it was yesterday or the day before. I'm just sad that I shot off all mine, don't have a way to return fire. But we're talking camouflage tonight. And the title being, Can Deer Really See That? The Truth About Camo and Whitetail Vision. And I thought, what better to wear for you guys than one of the original patterns, and one of my favorite patterns. This week's episode is brought to you by Deep Roots Rifle Company. Elevated excellence rooted in integrity and reliability. Use the link in the description to get over to their website and order just about everything you'll need to get into the woods this fall, from fully custom rifle builds, in-house to flashlights to help you find your way in the dark, and be sure to tell them UPO sent you. So, plaid, definitely one of my favorite versions because it tends to be cheaper than everybody else's. But the question is that $300, $400 jacket worth it? And the short answer to that, a lot of times, is going to be dependent on your weather, not necessarily the pattern. Because a lot with these more expensive camouflages, your Sitka and your First Light, and you step down a little bit beneath that, and you're looking at like Code of Silence and Natural Gear. They can be a little more technical clothing, and it's going to keep you warmer longer or cooler, or help you cool off better depending on what, time of year you're hunting and what technical clothing you're buying and wearing, which in turn will keep you on stand or in the woods longer. So yeah, for that reason alone, some of that technical clothing is definitely worth the price tag. But in reality, these cotton flannels thermoregulate pretty well. I'm sitting out here tonight and it's probably in the mid to high 80s, and there's no breeze, but I couldn't wear this walking into the woods. I'd sweat my butt off. But if I did, wear like a t-shirt out, and then I do what I do with these, most of the time I wear these outside this time of year because it keeps the mosquitoes off, because it's long sleeves. You see I roll up just above, 2 rolls up above the wrists. Keeps the mosquitoes off me for the most part, but I'm not overly hot. I mean, shoot, I'm sitting here drinking a cup of coffee. And I'm perfectly comfortable. So, but we're not here to talk about technical clothing or thermoregulation. We're here to talk about camouflage patterns and what deer actually see. So this came up from last week's episode of whitetail myths, right? And that you need all this camouflage. Steve Miller brought it up when I made a post on our group page about the with the myths show from last week, where you need all this expensive camo for deer to kill deer, which you don't at all. Walmart camo works just fine. No camo at all works just fine. So whitetail deer are diachromatic, meaning they see blue and some yellows, but they don't see red or orange. So they don't see like you and I do. They have more rods than cones in their eyes, so they have better night and low light vision, but less color and detail. They kind of see 2D, which doesn't help them so much with depth perception, but it helps a lot in spotting movement. So they have a very large field of wide range view up and down and left and right. You almost have to be directly behind a deer for it not to see you, and even with its head down, they can still see you up in the tree. So I know if you hunted deer long enough, you've been up in a tree, you've watched a deer feed in a food plot, and it's got its head down, and you make a slight movement, and then boom, jerks the head back up and looks right at you, because they can still see you in the top of their vision range when you move a little bit. So you almost got to wait till the head's behind a tree where you can't see the head at all, meaning they can't really see you at all. But you get busted when there's 4 or 5 does out there, and then one of the other ones sees you. If she blows, she goes. But I want you guys to keep this in mind too as you watch this video. We're sitting in here that last 30 minutes of daylight, right? The golden time frame where the deer are going to come out. Right as I started this, my watch went off telling me it was sunset time, meaning that we got 30 minutes of legal shooting light left. So watch my surroundings behind me, how shadows move and things like that. And keep in mind, of course, I'm going to stay lit. I've got a light over here that's lighting me up so you guys can see me all night. But we're in that last bit there. So their eyes are positioned for a 310 degree plus field of view with great motion detection. So I talk about that 2D vision, but not a lot of detail like you and I see with the depth perception. And they see UV light, meaning their untreated clothing, like shirts washed in brighteners, you glow like a beacon. You look like a highlighter going through the woods, no matter what color you're wearing. Think about when you look at the iridescence on a duck's wings, how that shines in the light. You're going to do the same thing if you're washing with regular Gain detergent, stuff like that. But you can get those clothing stuff to wash your clothes on. Doesn't really necessarily have to be a scent killer as much as you want it to be no UV brighteners and unscented. So you're worried about your pattern. I get it. A lot of people do. But that cheap laundry detergent is lighting you up like a glow stick. Keep that in mind more than anything else. So we're going to talk about how camouflage works, or how it's supposed to work. It's going to break up your outline, which, as you see with the vertical and horizontal lines on a plaid shirt like this, it's going to break up my shape so that I don't look like a blob sitting in the woods. That blob shape is going to kill more hunts than any pattern is going to. So wearing a solid color, especially a lighter color, and cool thing too, when we go to do this later on in the week, I'll post some stuff. I'll take some photos, both in probably 3 different photos. One in some plaid in mute earth tones, and then the same photo in like a pair of just like a plain white t-shirt and some stuff like that. And I'll take that and I'll put them through a diachromatic filter so you get a better idea of what deer are seeing. And I'm going to give you guys, let's see, you can't see off to my right over here. I've got a wood line over here. I'll take some over here, and then I'll take some against the trees back here directly facing the sun to try to show you the importance of shadow with and without camouflage versus no shadow and direct sunlight with and without camouflage, because that's going to kill you too. when you're wanting to blend in with your terrain, you're wanting to match tones more than you want to match trees, which is why you never see the military wear like real tree camouflage. We're not trying to match trees, we're trying to blend in with the earth tones and the tones around you. So, except for that stupid area where they went with the digital camouflage, military camouflage has always been based on some of the greatest and latest and greatest research. That's what you see like now. I should have wore one of my multicam hats. I have a UPO multicam hat. Just kind of illustrate that pattern a little better. And then prior to that, I still think one of the greatest patterns we ever wore was woodland, or God's plaid, as I like to refer to it as. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. And that's just the green, brown, black blotches. Breaks up, works really well, especially if you get a little dirty. And then on top of that, like we talked about, deer seeing in that 2D range, you want to be more cognizant of movement control, because stillness is going to beat camo 10 times out of 10. If it says been said once, it's been said 100 times. Sit still, be quiet. That's going to kill more deer than anything. Those cicadas are paid actors. And then UV treated gear and scent free detergents. So what's not going to help you is accessing over the ultra detailed camo and tight cover. You're gonna start to appear as a blob. Deer don't see in detail like we do. I think great patterns to look at. Well, really a lot of them are pretty good anymore as far as not being super fine detailed. But First Light has some really good patterns. Natural Gear is good about sticking to earth tones, natural colors, and their fall patterns. Their spring pattern is pretty much the same as the Natural Gear Natural, the SC2, but it has a lot more green in it. I like that pattern down here in Florida. It works well. I wear it during turkey season. I don't really wear it any other time because birds see different. They see color a lot better than deer do. But also, there is no specific name brand that's going to make you invisible. And there's something to be said about if you're going to sit on the ground in dead leaves with green bushes at your back, wearing complete green isn't really going to help you either. You want to break up with your pattern and match the same around you, right? So, but really, stand hunting with a rifle, you can get away with just mute tones, solid mute tones. You don't have to be that close. With a bow, you may want a little more breakup pattern to it. But this, again, the flannel, the plaid, in a mute tone, is all you really need if you're sitting still and being quiet. Thinking camo makes you invisible if you're skylined or moving like a fool is also terrible. And you got to think about skyline to the point like you guys can see these pine trees here over my shoulder, right? And there's plenty of places down here in the south where I could go 30 foot up that pine tree and I may have a little cover to my left or right. But when you look up at me from the bottom, if you can see my silhouette outlined against that pretty blue sky back there, it's going to be tough to beat. It says if you want to know how your camouflage looks, check out your photos on your game cam at night. If you lit up with infrared, yeah, you don't blend well during the day. That's a fairly good point. If you got some good infrared cameras. The best camo, hands down, is going to be sitting still And the best pattern is the one that doesn't look like a human standing upright. That's all there is to it. So what I wear and why. I like this, like I said in the beginning, I like plaid. I wear wool, traditional wool. I've got a nice traditional wool. I wouldn't call it an anorak. It's a hoodie type from Asbel wool, but it's got a zipper that comes all the way down to the top of the front pocket. And it's thin, but it's very warm. I've got a huge front pocket, little zipper in the front with an extra pocket in the front of that. It has a hood, which I'm not a big fan of the hood. I may approach them and see if I can have them make me another one that just has a collar instead of a hood. I like a good double collar because you can pop the collar, which I will do in the cold. But when you have that second collar underneath that you can really bring up over the back of your neck, they're really comfortable when it's cold and breezy out. Uh, I have the most camouflage that I have is natural gear. Natural gear, natural. I wear when I duck hunt, and it's just a tan and brown breakup combination pattern. It works really well in the fall time, and it just blends with a woody environment. And then in the spring, like I said, I've got some of that SC2, and that SC2 is not by any means warm, so you got to keep that in mind depending on where you're at in the spring. It's more meant for hotter environments. But you can always put warmer stuff on underneath of it. And I'll wear that in the early season too, because if you look behind me now, it's the way it's going to be in September down here in Florida. It's still going to be very green, and it's going to remain that way most of the way through season. So I have in the past put on some warmer layers underneath that SC2 if it's going to get down into the maybe in the 40s in the morning when I'm sitting still. But I've also come to realize here recently, thanks to Jake, I made fun of him one year when we were on a duck hunt and he had a vest on. And then I tried the vest on, and vests are awesome, hands down. If you're not on the vest game, you're missing out. Insulated vest with like 40 degrees, I can throw on that wool on top of one of these. I'll wear like a t-shirt, a cotton flannel, my wool hoodie, and then throw that big thick Carhartt vest on, zip that up. It'll be 30 degrees, and I'm toasty. Keeps me from getting too hot, but keeps me from being too cold as well. I've come to find out that I sit still longer and I last longer in the woods when I'm not overly hot in either direction. I'm not overly too hot or too cold. Face mask. I don't really wear a face mask. I don't like wearing a face mask. You can see I'm sitting here chewing tobacco. I like to be able to spit in the tree stand or smoke a pipe or whatever else. But I will take and keep a cork out of a whiskey bottle. I burn the end of that, and I'll use that to cover obviously I'm a pretty white dude. Cover the white parts of my face outside of my facial hair to help mute that blotch. Gloves. I didn't really wear gloves when it's cold. I'd use pockets. I have I call it a fupa pouch, the little hand warmer, and I keep my hands inside that. I like the dexterity of not having a gloved hand. When I'm walking, I'll sometimes I have some insulated leather gloves, which are very comfortable, and they usually keep my hands pretty dry too. In the duck blind, I have neoprene gloves because they keep water out, and just by keeping you dry, they keep your hands warmer. And they're just black. Some stuff I've changed over the years. For the longest time, I always wore like hand-me-down Walmart camouflage stuff. There's nothing wrong with that. And then I hit a point where I was like, man, you know what? I'm a grown man making grown man money. I'm going to buy matching camouflage. And I did. and it felt good for a while. And then it kind of got old. It's hard to keep up with buying more and more and more and more. Now just buy this. I wear these flannels. I've got some Dickies carpenter pants that I really like, and they've got plenty of pockets to fit all your pieces of gear in there. And I've got them in like browns and greens and blacks, not blue, because deer see blue. Don't wear blue jeans. Um, and I don't know that I can point to a time when my camouflage or lack thereof has got me busted. I can definitely point to a time when I got skylined. Uh, I was bow hunting on up in Tennessee, and I mean, I felt like I was hidden pretty well. I always try to, when I set up in a tree, look back down. I try to look down where I'm going to see deer, and then turn my head at that same angle, look behind me to see, and try to keep my cover behind me. Because you got to keep in mind the deer has that 2D vision. So they're not seeing this separation; they're seeing it all as one sheet, right? But they're going to pick up movement really well because of that. So you watch what's behind you. And I thought I had pretty good back cover. I had a doe come in. I had about 25 yards, and she was feeding. And I got drawn back on her. And as soon as I got to full draw on my anchor point, a crow flew overhead and told on me. And when she looked, I mean, dead at me in the tree stand. And that was gone just like that. Never even got a shot off. So I had to have been skylined pretty bad at that point, a lot worse than I thought I was. There's no other way she saw me other than that, because I was at full draw in the anchor point. There was no way she saw me moving, or she'd have took off well before that. She didn't even look at me until that crow made a noise, directly behind me. Maybe he saw me. Maybe he was sitting behind me. I don't know. But in reality, like, situational awareness, camo is just one piece. Okay, wind and thermals are going to be far more important than your pattern. When you're talking thermals here in Florida, your thermals, in the morning they're going to rise, in the afternoon they're going to fall. That's going to be anywhere, not in Florida. Thermals rise with heat, and as it cools down, they fall back down. Now, in a hilly terrain, they're going to rise up out of the bottoms, so you want to make sure you're mindful of that thermal. Your scent's going to go uphill in the morning and then back downhill in the afternoon. In Florida, it's going to pull to and from water. We have a lot of water, swampy area, so your thermals are going to pull in the morning. It's going to pull away from the swamp. In the morning, it's going to pull right back to it. You can see that by using milkweed instead of just spraying chalk, that little chalk stuff on the wind. When you drop a milkweed seed, you can watch it float for a long ways, and sometimes you'll see it go out 20 yards, hit a thermal, go up, and then come back. Your scent's going to do that same thing. It's going to ride that same pattern across. So those are things to keep in mind. You can find some native plants here in Florida. I mean, milkweed is native, but there are other weeds that you can pull that tuft stuff out of and keep that in a little old prescription bottle. I don't make film bottles anymore. In your bag, and just drop one or two of them out, watch them float across. Sometimes midday you'll drop it with no wind, you'll watch it just go straight to the ground. That's good, scent's not going anywhere. But it is going to hit, your scent's going to kind of move like, you ever watched a fog machine? It goes out and just kind of spreads across the ground. It's going to dissipate as it gets further away from your tree. Your scent's going to do the same thing. You're constantly shedding those skin cells that are going to allow that scent to move out and beyond. Your entry and exit routes, you want to make sure that you're coming in from a direction that the deer really aren't, and you're going to go out that same way, because you're going to leave scent on the ground when you do that. And you don't want them crossing your scent. That'll get you busted just as fast as The wind will. Movement and sound are going to bust hunts more than anything, but the sun position is also something to keep in mind, which is why I talked about when I take these photos, I'll get some of the sun directly in my face. Wear cheap garden gloves. That works. Pretty much always wear a light camo net gaiter and a wide brim camo bucket hat. I'll call that a boonie cap, Steve. Shade when it get bright, yeah. Sunglasses. I know who Santa Claus is. Sunglasses are another thing to keep in mind, though, because they also give off that reflective. I mean, I'm guilty of wearing mirrored sunglasses. I think Blue Otter used to make a pair. I don't know if they still do. They call them duck lenses. They're anti-glare lenses, which is a little more important, I would say, when you're duck hunting, because you're looking up into the sky. You don't want that glare to kick off the lens. But I thought about picking up a pair just to wear to the woods, period, because I don't want that glare. Have the evening sun, just catch perfectly off that and glint, and then you're gone. Just that little bit of out of place. That's all it's going to take. The movement and sound is definitely good, and we talked about this last week with the clanging and banging of metal on metal. Unnatural sounds in the woods, but movement, being fidgety, and it goes back to, yeah, the hat does help me. I wear a ball cap, but then I have a boonie cap, but I don't hardly ever wear the dang thing. But the movement goes back to looking with your eyes first and then dragging your head after your eyes, so that you make sure you're using your peripheral vision to your advantage, just like the deer's going to do. But sitting in the shade, and I know this is a little bit more important, I would say, for some in the wintertime than the summertime. In the summertime, or in the early season down here in Florida, I don't think there's any hunter out there that's actually trying to sit in the sun. You're trying to hide from it, so you end up in the shade anyway. But on those cool mornings, that sun can feel pretty good on your face. But it's also going to make you shine like nobody else. You just stand out really well. I don't know if you've ever seen a deer standing across like an agriculture field with the sun beaming off of it. You look exactly the same when you sit in a tree. They can see you so easy. Camo helps. There are a lot of patterns out there, I think, in today's day and age. And we're kind of moving away from that, but we hit a period where a lot of patterns were just designed to catch your eye more than they were designed, as a hunter, to catch your eye more than they were designed to keep you hidden. But also, this goes back, and I've said this before, confidence is key. If you have confidence in your gear and the way you're doing things and those little things, whether they work science-based or not, that little bit of confidence is going to give you an edge. But the right movement, setup, and wind are more important. I talked about this when I made a video out here smoking my pipe. I was sitting out here smoking the pipe, and I'm watching as the breeze goes, I puff a little bit out, and I watch the smoke right off my back shoulder. And I was like, we've heard plenty of stories of the old guys talking about how we get so fancy with this scent killer stuff, and they killed these big bucks while smoking a cigarette. Well, yeah, whether they were cognizant of it or not, they were very conscious of where the wind was blowing at all times. So you're watching your wind the entire time you're smoking a cigarette, whether you realize it or not. If you're smoking and you're watching the smoke blow out in front of you, you know where the wind's at, and maybe you start shifting, looking this way or that way to use the wind to your advantage. But now with the updates in weather apps, you can see hourly wind shift throughout there. Spartan Forge has that in there, as well as any weather app worth its salt. can pick your pin and watch that compass of the wind as the hours change and direction it's going to blow. And that may change terrain dependent. You know, if you're in some deep hills and draws and stuff like that, you may see, you know, it tells you your wind's coming out of the north. Here's a little tip for you. If this is a north wind, the wind is blowing south out of the north, not blowing north out of the south. So, you know, you got your north wind blowing down from the north, but you get down in these valleys and now it's actually coming out of the northeast because that's just the way the terrain's forcing it through there. That's why observation sits are going to be important, and knowing the land you're hunting on. Here in the flatland in Florida, it's pretty much always going to be what the weatherman says it's going to be. There's not a lot of terrain to shift that wind around, but the water can shift that. If you got a big body of water, it can make a difference in wind speed and direction and your thermal pull. In reality, don't get suckered by marketing. Know your terrain, know your quarry, and your habits. That's what it's going to boil down to. You want to, if you want to be the whitetail's eyes, stop looking like a man, stop moving like a man, and stop glowing like laundry detergent. I'll look around and see what I can find laundry detergent wise. Maybe I have to make my own to go scent free, brightener free. I wonder how many washes it takes to get rid of the brighteners that are already in there. And when I say brighteners, you're looking at your laundry detergent may not necessarily say color brighteners, but it's going to say like anti-fading properties. That's going to be the color brighteners in there. They're going to keep your stuff from fading or make it looking faded. But a little dirt helps. Get some of your terrain and stick it in your box. I've used the corn spike from 4S, which is just like a attractant. It's not a bait. There's no what's the one I'm looking for? There's no sustenance to it. It's just smell. Dumping in the bottom of the box. It'll keep everything smelling like apples or cherries or whatever. Smells sweet. There's no sugar in it. It's just like an odorized powder. It's an attractant. Put it on top of a corn pile if you're allowed to bait, you're on private land or whatever. But like I said, I'll get out here this week and I'll take some photos and try to put that diachromatic filter over it so you guys can see what a deer would see in the daylight versus in the shade. Because you sit back in the shade and you use the shadows to your advantage. You hide pheromones. I don't know. Maybe. It's hard to find that crap that I would trust. That goes back to the scent killers. I mean, I don't know. I always have used like Tink 69 doe pee during the rut. I don't know that it really makes a difference. I've set the buck bombs off and I've seen deer stop and look, and then I've set them off and they never paid any attention whatsoever. Now, speaking from experience, Tinks used to make aerosol spray that was like a little pouch, pressurized pouch in a can, and it that way you didn't get any aerosol, you just got liquid. But it smelled like persimmon. And I took that stuff to the woods with me one time, and I would always spray it on my clothes. I took it out to the woods, and I had a doe come in straight on, upwind from me. She saw something she didn't like where I was at, circled around downwind. When she hit my direct downwind side, I just took that stuff and sprayed it on the wind. And she stuck her nose up, and she hit that persimmon and forgot all about what she saw in the tree that she didn't like. She started walking right towards me. Then she got to where she could see me good again, because I had better cover from that way. And then she's like, wait a minute, turned around and walked away. And I watched her get a little further away, and I hit it again. She caught it on the wind again, turned around and came right back. She did that 3 times, and I let her leave. I wasn't going to shoot her. I didn't want to drag her out of there. But those are things to keep in mind. Some of that stuff works. I've had sweet smelling work better for me than dopey. I don't know. But it's always more important to sit still and be quiet than it is to be camouflage. Camouflage works better to fool our eyes than it does a deer's. Look at a camouflage pattern as to how it's going to break up your outline versus blending in with the tree or the bushes. Because you're not always going to be in a tree, so it doesn't help to look like a tree. You're not always going to be in the leaves, doesn't have to always look like the leaves. It helps to look like everything and nothing all at the same time. But have enough breakup, as you can see. You look at how this line here on my shoulder runs at a different angle than the rest of my body. These lines breaking and with branches coming across. So I said I'll get over here in the bushes and sit. I'll probably wear this exact shirt. I'll take one in regular color like we see it, and I'll take one and put the diachromatic filter over it. I'll put an orange vest on, orange vest off. Now I don't wear an orange vest, solid orange vest. I wear a breakup orange vest because, again, the blob, deer don't see orange, but they do see that solid blob. And the breakup still really isn't all that broke up, but to me, I don't know, that's a confidence thing. Some states allow it, some states don't. I can always flip my vest inside out in a solid orange. So if it gives you an extra bit of confidence, great. Go for it. But sit still, be quiet, watch your wind. That's going to kill more deer than anything else. And I think I'll end on that note. But it's been a pleasure with you gentlemen on here. Tyke and Steve and Jake. Keep those good ideas rolling in. Steve, that was good when you commented on that. Keep some more of this stuff going. That was been on my mind all week since I made that post. And I knew that, deer had that. They just don't see like we do, but it's that 2D vision that they have that really helps them spot the movement in that very wide field of view where they can see you even when you don't think they can. And I've got bug spray on. The mosquitoes are still biting my ankles even with the bug spray. Yeah, Tyke, your raw animal attraction. I believe that. It's the manliness. It does it every time. But, well, y'all have a good night. We'll catch you next week.